Hello, welcome again sa Wisdom Academy PH. Today we will discuss about one-sided limits. This will be our second lesson of our lecture series about limits and continuity. So let's start. So first, let us define what is one-sided limits. One-sided limits are denoted as seen on your screen, this one and this one, and it is read as the limit of f of x as x approaches a from the right or from the left is L. So, nag-iiba lang siya from normal limits with these signs. Yung plus and minus sign alongside A. Okay? So, plus denotes if x approaches from the right and minus sign denotes if it is from the left. So, ano ba ang pinagkaiba ng one-sided limits sa normal limits? So, let's say we have a function f of x as follows. And we want to find its limit as x approaches a. So, sa normal limits, titignan natin yung values near a as x approaches a both from the left and from the right. Okay? So, for one-sided limits, isa lang yung titignan natin since one-sided lang siya. So, if we are looking from the right, it will be denoted with a plus sign. So, ito lang yung titignan natin, yung values from the right. Kung minus sign naman, from the left naman yung titignan natin. Okay? Mas maging clear siya through our examples later. For evaluating one-sided limits naman, in most cases, same lang siya with evaluating normal limits. So, same theorems will apply to one-sided limits. Applicable pa rin yung direct substitution with some exceptions lang, which we will discuss later. Okay? Let us discuss this through an example. So, we are tasked to find the limit of this function as x approaches 4 from the left. Since the sign is negative, it will be from the left. Okay? So, try muna natin yung normal na alam natin na direct substitution. So, kung direct substitution, limit of 4, square root of 4 minus 4. So, limit of x, of square root of 0. So, equal na ba siya kagad sa 0? In this case, mamamali tayo in some cases kapag direct substitution kagad yung ginawa natin. Dahil, hindi natin in-account yung from the left or from the right. Kasi, if titignan natin yung function na square root of x, yung graph niya looks something like this. Okay? So, at x equals 0, tama nga naman na 0 yung value niya. Pero, if we will look at its limit, so, its limit from the right, makikita natin na yung mga values niya ay approaching 0 naman talaga. Pero if we will look from the left, walang value, walang kahit ano. So, from the left, it will not exist. And from the right, it will be equal to 0. So, kailangan natin i-account yung side kapag we encounter square root of 0. Okay? Okay, so paano ba natin to magagawa in an easier way? So, para malaman if from the positive side, mag-substitute lang ako ng value na less than 4 pero near 4. For example, 3.9. So, kung magsasubstitute ako ng 3.9, makukuha ako dito ng square root of 4 minus 3.9, which will equal to 0.1. So, 0.1 is greater than 0 pero near 0. So, we will denote it as 0 plus. Ibig sabihin, malapit siya sa 0. Greater than 0 siya pero malapit siya sa 0. So, since 0 plus siya, square root of 0 plus will be equal to 0. Paano naman if the other case? Ayan. Sa other case, kapag naman from the right tayo titingin, so, makikita rin natin to kapag mag-substitute tayo ng value na greater than 4 pero near 4. For example, 4.1. So, square root of 4 minus 4.1, makuha tayo ng square root of negative 0.1, which we will denote as 0 minus kasi near 0 siya, pero less than 0. Okay? So, square root of 0 minus does not exist kasi negative siya. And square root of negative numbers, alam natin, ay imaginary numbers which does not exist. Okay? So, looking at the graph, so if we see the limit as x approaches 4 from the left, the limit indeed is 0. Pero from the right, it does not exist. So, tama lang yung solve natin. Okay. Ano pa yung difference na for one-sided limits? So, recall muna natin si floor function. So, si floor function, basically, ang sinasabi niya, for example, may decimal values tayo na 1.2. Hindi pa pasok natin sa floor function. I-round down lang natin siya palagi. So, maging equal to sa 1. So, kung, for example, negative 1.9, okay, i-round down natin siya, magiging negative 2. So, if 2.8, floor function natin siya, magiging 2. So, i-round down lang palagi. For ceiling function naman, ganun din. So, 1.2. Ceiling of 1.2 is 2. So, ceiling function on the other hand is round up. So, floor function round down, ceiling function round up. So, ganun ulit. So, negative 1.9, round up natin will be negative 1. So 2.8, round up natin, magiging 3 lang. So, ganun. Ceiling function, round up, floor function, round down. So, paano ito maging different sa one-sided limits? So, let's see its graphs. So, makikita natin na at x equals integers, if kukunin natin yung limits nila from the right, magiging iba siya sa limit from the left for every integer values. Okay? So, ganun. Hindi maging sapat yung direct substitution kasi different yung values nila from the left and from the right. So, kailangan natin i-account yung from the left or from the right. Okay, so we will explain this through examples. So, yung technique na gagawin natin dito is similar sa ginawa natin sa square root functions. So, we will just substitute values near a pero greater than or less than a. Okay? So, for this first example, we will substitute negative 1. So, less than negative 1. So, negative 1.1 yung pwede natin i-substitute. So, negative 1.1 plus 1. So, 2 times negative 1.1 is negative 2.2 plus 1, negative 1.2. So, ceiling function nito is negative 1. So, for the second example, so pwede natin i-substitute dito si 2.1. 2.1 plus 3 is equals to 5.1. Ceiling function is equals to 6. So, dito naman, pwede natin i-substitute si 0.9. So, 2 times 0.9 minus 1. Floor yan. Floor function is equals to 1.8 minus 1, 0.8. Floor function equals to 0. Tapos dito naman, negative 3 greater than negative 3, so 2.9. Negative 2.9. Floor function minus 1 will be equal to negative 3.9. So, ang floor function yan is negative 4. Okay? So, ganun lang. Ganun lang tayo mag-solve ng one-sided limits for floor and ceiling functions. Okay? Okay. So, now, we will discuss how we will use one-sided limits to get limits of a function. So, we have a theorem dito. Kung maalala natin na yung difference ng normal limits sa one-sided limits is both sides tinitingnan yung normal limits. So, we can translate it to this theorem na yung limit of f of x as x approaches a will be equals to L if and only if its one-sided limits from the right and from the left is both equal to L. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, kung ang limit ni f of x at x approaches a is equals to L, ibig sabihin, pareho yung one-sided limits nila equal to L. Ganun din, on the other hand, kapag yung both one-sided limits from the right and from the left is equals to a, ibig sabihin, yung limit niya as x, limit ni f of x as x approaches a is equals to L. Okay? So, it goes both ways. Since we use if and only if. Okay? So, from our example from lesson 1. So, yung f of x equal siya to 1 if x is greater than 0 and 0 if x is less than 0. And we will find the limit of f of x as x approaches 0. So, ganito, kapag piecewise function, yun yung isa sa mga cases na hindi tayo magda-direct substitution agad. Especially if yung limit na hinahanap natin is on the interval, on the endpoints of the intervals. So, since hinahanap natin is 0 and endpoint siya ng interval, so hindi tayo kagad makakapag-direct substitution dito kasi interval siya. So, in this case, hanapin natin yung limits nila from the right and from the left. So, from the right, alam natin na yung limit niya is approaching 1 and limit niya from the left is 0. Okay. So, posible na merong limit from the right and limit from the left. Pero, yung limit does not exist since the limit from the right is not equal to the limit from the left. Okay. So, ganun lang siya. Okay. So, we will use this knowledge to evaluate limits. So, now, we will evaluate the limit of this function as x approaches 1. So, paano natin to gagawin? So, try muna natin yung direct substitution since hindi naman siya piecewise function. So, if we try direct substitution, makikita natin na makakakuha tayo ng 0 over 0. Kasi, 1 minus 1, 0. 1 minus 1, 0. Okay. So, alam natin na kapag may 0 over 0, indeterminate form siya. So, it can either exist or not. So, paano natin to isosolve? So, unang-una, para ma-solve, ang key dito, para ma-solve natin to ay, maalalahanin natin na yung absolute value of x minus 1 is also equivalent to x minus 1 when x is greater than or equal to 1 and negative x minus 1 when x is less than 1. Bakit? Kasi kapag positive values, kapag greater than 1, x minus 1 is positive. So, absolute value of a positive number is the positive number itself. If x is less than 1, magiging negative siya kasi x minus 1, kapag x is less than 1, magiging less than 0. So, magiging negative value siya and absolute value of negative values is the positive value. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ine-negate natin yung negative value para maging positive siya. Kaya, equivalent yung absolute value function to this function. So, knowing this, pwede nating i-represent si x minus 1 over absolute value of x minus 1 will be equal to a piecewise function of x minus 1 over x minus 1 if x is greater than or equal to 1. This will be equal to 1. Since x minus 1 ay pareho lang, so equal lang siya sa 1. And kapag naman less than 1, magiging negative lang to and will equal to negative 1. Okay? So now, we have a piecewise function, equivalent piecewise function of our function. So, ngayon, since piecewise function na siya, kailangan na natin instead hanapin yung limit niya from the left and from the right. So, limit of x, limit as x approaches 1 from the right muna. So, ibig sabihin, x is greater than 1. So, equal siya sa 1. Since alam natin dito na equal siya sa 1. So, ganun din. From the left naman, alam natin na negative 1 since alam natin na kapag less than 1 yung input natin, negative 1 yung value. In this case pala, greater than, maliit x is greater than 1. Kasi, at x is equals to 1, undefined yung function. Since hindi equal tong dalawa, masasabi natin na limit of x, limit of the function as x approaches 1 does not exist. Ayan. So, in this case, nakapag-show tayo ng isang function na 0 over 0, pero yung resulting value niya is does not exist. Okay. So, now we will have another example na a piecewise function where we will find its limit naman. So, since 1 is its endpoint and we are finding its limit as x approaches 1, so we must find its one-sided limits first. So, limit of f of x as x approaches 1 from the right muna is equals to the limit of x of the function as x approaches 1 from the right. So, ito ay 2x minus 1. Since from the right, ito yung value niya. So, direct substitution lang. So, 2 minus 1 equals 1. So, ganun din from the left. So, equal lang siya sa limit of itong nasa baba naman na function yung gagamitin natin since from the left and less than 1 yun yung value ng function kapag less than 1 yung input. So, x squared minus 3x plus 3. So, equal siya sa 1 minus 3 plus 3 is equals to 1. And since its one-sided limits are both equal to 1, then we can say a limit of f of x as x approaches 1 is equals to 1. Ayan. So, kapag piecewise function, kailangan lang natin laging, and hinahanap natin yung limit sa endpoint ng intervals, kailangan lang natin hanapin muna yung one-sided limits. Tsaka natin makukuha yung limits if its one-sided limits are both equal to each other. Otherwise, yung katulad ng pinakita natin kanina, kung hindi sila equal, the limit does not exist. So, that's it for our second lesson about one-sided limits. So, our next lesson will be about vertical and horizontal asymptotes. So, I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching this video lecture made by Wisdom Academy PH. If you want to join our mission of providing high-quality educational videos for all Filipinos free of charge, then please consider supporting Wisdom Academy PH by contributing or donating to the following accounts. Kung interesado naman kayo maging parte ng aming organisasyon bilang isang volunteer educator, upang makapagbahagi at makapagturo sa mga taong nangangailangan, then please proceed to this link. If you like this video, then please hit the thumbs up. And if you want more educational videos like this, then please subscribe to Wisdom Academy PH and hit the notification bell for more updates. Watch and learn. God bless, and see you on the next one.